Alright, good. So now you can share screen, send out the Zoom link. Yep. Maximize. So slow. It's confusing.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's so slow.
I don't know. It's just with Zoom too.
Oh my goodness, do it.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to click on more and it's not responding. Oh, there you go. Oh no, it doesn't even wait.
What are
Hold
you
on.
trying to do?
I was trying to get to the code, but that's not
Oh,
right.
the link.
Yeah, the link.
It's up here. Click on shield.
Oh my goodness.
Also disable waiting.
Ah, okay. Copy.
Click on security.
Yeah.
Why? Where was Master Chief when you needed him? And I can share this thing. Share entire screen, share sound optimize.
Oh, whoops.
Share sound.
Oh my God.
Optimize. Share. Nice. And then just have the chat up somewhere.
All right, you probably have to make the announcement.
No, yeah, almost get teared out for the space. Yeah, one word I was looking at, like, you know, you buy some of the Apple, give it, there's unused. We love writing it.
Yeah, sorry about the very late announcement.
That's me.
Okay, we were having a really good conversation. Impact.
Yeah, but
Hey,
that-
that's gonna
That's gonna pop up.
against you.
It's
And why it's
great.
bad.
It's almost like I pre-read the slides.
yeah, you kind of got a bit of a preview.
We love Genshin in this club.
We're Genshining in this impact.
I don't like gotcha games. I don't like paid gotcha games.
So
If
that's
it's
just all
like
gotcha games.
If it's a pay upfront gotcha game like Xenoblade 2, I'm fine with that. If I have to pay to get characters, no.
Every game is a gotcha game if you think about it in that mentality. Overwatch 2 is technically now a gotcha game.
Yeah, I tell you, you're right.
But instead of characters, it's cosmetics.
You don't say.
Which is also why I stopped playing Overwatch 2.
But Junker clean.
But I don't want to spend $40 on what I spent $60 on 7 years ago. For one skin.
It's only 20.
No. The skin itself is 20, but the bundle is 40 if you want the highlight intro and the sprays that go with it.
Okay. Posted. Spam writing.
Eat well. Eat fresh.
Subway.
We're having a Subway.
Too far.
You could stop by it.
They
Usually,
have a free shipping code right now.
You know what? I'm gonna get actually more than someone. I want to get. I'm gonna get random.
usually I would say that we probably should wait.
It's at Ale.
Go.
As we
Go.
go, do it right now.
Just go.
Okay. What do I do with this meeting chat window?
Move it out of the way of your text.
So yeah,
Whoops. Okay. Usually we would wait, but and we're already like 12 minutes over schedule. So we're gonna start this workshop now. Hello guys, this is the VGDC writing workshop, number 2. We did say it was a bi-weekly schedule, but we made an exception just for week 2.
And week 3, but that's Gallahorn. That's also an exception to should have.
Yeah. So today we're going to be looking at Ludonarrative Dissonance, or when gameplay and story don't align. I gave a list of the games I'm gonna be mentioning here, mainly because some of these I'm gonna spoil. So just in case you care about any of these, just be careful. So what is Ludonarrative Dissonance? Well, it's a combination of Ludo and narrative, which is play and story, and dissonance, lack of harmony. It is a critical term used to describe instances where the story does not match the gameplay or contradicts it, or the gameplay contradicts the story.
I'm not going to talk about what that was.
Yeah, that's probably the arcade cabinet.
And
But there is some history behind the term. It's a pretty recent one. I believe it was first talked about by Clint Hawking when he was talking about BioShock. We have the quote here. Should we read it out loud?
BioShock is a hypocrite. That's what that quote says.
Yeah, basically, if I can do this in the game, then why can't I take my own approach to the story? Why am I forced into doing this when the game's when the game is telling me something else through the gameplay? So it was mainly focused on themes at first, but it has expanded to be able to describe the whole story. It's not necessarily an attack on the story or the gameplay on their own. For example, a story that is questionable at best is not ludonarrative dissonance. It's about how they combine together that can create ludonarrative dissonance. So we're going to show some examples. May have ballooned that a lot, but more examples there, the better, right? So one of the most famous examples of ludonarrative dissonance is in the Uncharted series. Nathan Drake is a very charismatic character. He goes on adventures. He's like a lighthearted kind of guy. However, he likes shooting a lot of people. There is a lot of violence in the Uncharted series, to the point where people were like, "Wait a minute, why is this dude shooting up so many people?" To the point where in the 4th game, we can have an achievement where we shoot 1,000 enemies.
And the inability to narrative distance.
Yes. Also, we have in the gameplay, the player health is a bit of a weird one. Basically, you can get shot, but you can recover just fine. However, in certain cutscenes, let me cut this.
While you still can.
And leave you with them.
I'll let the cutscene play out.
You made your choice.
What did you expect me to do?
I expected you to have my
I
back.
had your back.
How could you possibly with the other 2 on yours?
Good luck with Flynn. Deserve each other. I can't believe.
Oh, would you look at that?
No. You just don't know when to quit.
Okay, so being shot by a high caliber bullet aside.
Well, so the way Uncharted health works is that it's not your health bar, it's your luck bar. Because every time you get shot, you're not actually getting shot, you're dodging the bullet just barely. And when your health luck finally runs out, then you actually get shot and die from 1 bullet. Because that makes sense. That is no joke how they explain why he's able to take so many bullets as a normal human.
Yes, although to be fair, there's a lot of shooter games that have you do this. Call of Duty, for example, lets you get shot 1 million times. It's not even the luck system anyway. it's literally just, oh, you got shot, but you can heal from it. But in a cutscene, you get shot, it's serious business.
Wow.
Another example of what you could say is ludonarrative dissonance is in The Last of Us Part 2. Basically, in the game, there is a mechanic where the last survivor of your recent massacre can surrender. But when you try to spare them, no matter what you do, they always try to get up and fight you again. Since a lot of people like to mention that the game's story, or he's talking about like, ending the cycle of violence, learning how to forgive and like give mercy, it gets a bit weird when the gameplay itself punishes you for trying to spare people. So it's just something to consider.
Let's not even talk about the ending.
Yeah, the story is something else that we can talk about later, but that's just a specific example.
We're not allowed to judge. It's game of the year.
Yeah. All right. So more examples of ludonarrative dissonance is in several open world games, kind of in parentheses. Basically, you're given an objective that seems very time sensitive, right? Like in Breath of the Wild, you're tasked with saving Princess Zelda. It's Zelda from the clutches of Ganondorf. And as you can imagine, that's a pretty time sensitive thing. You don't want to, dawdle on that. But the game lets you do whatever the hell you want. So you can just completely ignore the fact that you're supposed to be saving Zelda and just go on a bunch of wacky hijinks. This is the same with another game called Fallout 4. Basically, you're trying to find your baby son, Sean, but the game does not force you into trying to find him. So you can basically found a ton of settlements. You can just focus on other characters, and then after like 50 hours, the only thing Sean will be just a memory in the back of your head. If you don't care about the story, that is. Now I have not played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so I'll let the elder god of writing, Randon, explain this one.
Finally, my proper title. Yeah. If you ever want an example of ludonarrative dissonance, just play with Xenoblade 2. The entire game is just ludonarrative dissonance, because every single boss fight you play, you can beat the bosses pretty easily. It's not a super difficult game, especially if you roll good on the gotchas. But every single scene, right after you beat up the boss and take like no damage, it will show them having not taken a single hit, and your entire team's pretty much on the verge of death every single time. Not to mention a whole host of just issues of stuff that the players say in game versus what they actually do in the cutscene, including who the second to last final boss of the game is, who's goes totally against what he does for the rest of the game. I'm not going to spoil that bit because it's just, I mean, you kind of see it coming, but it's still just like that.
How many people are in there? There's one more person. Nice. All right. So next game, there's a game called Yakuza. The main protagonist, Kiryu, has been canonically said to have not killed anyone, at least outside of self-defense.
Mhm.
He's never killed anyone. That's crazy. Those were all rubber bullets.
Which can
I don't-
kill people.
Yes, I don't think I need to explain this. So I was gonna change this, but I had this really weird feeling, and I couldn't even remove this. So we're gonna keep this in. Basically, back when Genshin Impact was first starting out, because I have no idea if they changed this or not.
They don't.
Yeah. Okay. So in Genshin Impact, you can switch out characters instead of staying with your player avatar. However, this gets a little bit weird when you're talking to NPCs. Basically, the NPCs will always assume that you're talking to the player avatar. So when you're not playing as the player avatar, you can have instances like these where they're mentioning people in third person while the person is right there in front of them. For example, in the screenshot, Chef Mao is talking about his daughter, Zhangling. The problem is Zhangling is right in front of him, and he's talking about her like she's not even there at all. And the thing is, they can fix this because they have switched. Sometimes when you talk to NPCs, they switch the player avatar, but they don't do it all the time. They just do it sometimes, which can get pretty irritating if you care about that stuff. Look, sometimes you can even talk to yourself as yourself. Another example. Here's another screenshot here. Here, Diona is right in front of her father, but her father is acting like he's talking to someone else. And because the game allows you to not use your player avatar at all, you can have examples where the player avatar is just sitting in the background doing nothing while everyone else is doing something. But then everyone assumes that he's the one that did all these things. You could like play as someone else, and you could pick like 40 radishes, and then the NPCs will be like, "Oh my god, player avatar, I can't believe you picked 40 radishes." And it's like, no, he's not the one who picked 40 radishes, or she's not the one picking 40 radishes. Someone else did. The last example we're going to use here is one of the weekly bosses. Basically, there is a dude who is a villain, but you can roll for him and you can play as him. This creates a weird situation where you can go to beat him up as himself. It also causes this weird thing because they haven't addressed it, because in the story, he's still kind of a villain, right? Which, if you think about it, makes no sense, because why would the player avatar be working with someone who is working against him? Basically, inconsistency can cause lots of ludonarrative dissonance, and the player avatar is friends with monsters.
And another nail in the conflict for Genshin Impact. One of the villains, I'm not going to say who, but they go through like a whole redemption arc. It's very dramatic, and then they go through a whole thing, and then you can recruit them, right? But you can recruit them at any time. So you can recruit the reformed, like renewed, like former villain character as a person before they even go through the redemption arc. So you can encounter the evil version of that character and fight them as the reformed version of themselves.
Right. So, has anyone else here got any other examples of ludonarrative dissonance that they would like to share? We can look at the chat.
Warcraft?
Warcraft? What?
I saw Victoria pointing towards something.
Okay.
Unrelated.
All right. I'm going to assume that is a no. Whoops. So why can ludonarrative dissonance be bad for a game? I'm going to show a quote here from Super Eye Patch Wolf.
All right.
A lot of open world games want to give us as much freedom as possible, while also asking us to empathize with its protagonist and story, which is a problem if, in between story sequences, we're using that same character avatar to run down pedestrians. This is referring to a game, Watch Dogs, where your character is a vigilante, but he's also, running down innocent people.
Or
and
Batman
then, in the game at least.
Batman Arkham, where he literally beats people within an inch of their life, and yet that's humane.
Well, that's a thing with Batman, just like in general. But I get you. I get
Kill
you.
them, just mortally.
Yes. So what that quote is saying is basically, ludonarrative dissonance can detach players from the experience and can break the immersion they have in the game. It creates a barrier between the player's actions and the narrative, and which can be very, takes the player out of the experience in a way that like would happen in like other mediums like films or books. It can take away from both the narrative and the design experience, and it can undermine the story the game is trying to tell. Plus, some players will be constantly reminded that there are missed opportunities being taken with the story. For example, in the Last of Us Part 2 example I shared, a lot of people were very disappointed that you could not spare people in the game, and that they were wondering why some of them wouldn't just run away. Why do all of them have to like try and get back up to fight again instead of taking the chance? You know, resonance is a strength of our medium. As we play video games, there's a certain connection that we have to the world that is not possible with other mediums. So we should try to take advantage of this as much as possible.
What
Here-
was that image, by the way?
It was a meme about Uncharted.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So here, in order to show how good reducing ludonarrative dissonance can be, I'm gonna talk about some examples here. Basically, the first example I'm gonna show is Metal Gear Solid 3. Basically, there's a sniper called the End, and you have to fight him in the story. But there's a really cool way that you can beat him. Basically, if you're playing the game and you can't find them, all you need to do is stop playing the game, come back 2 weeks later, and then come back into the game to realize that he died because he's too old. Died from old age, which is really cool. Another example is Far Cry 4. Basically, in the beginning of the game, Pagan Min, the main antagonist, tells you to stay at the dinner table while he's off doing nothing, wink wink. But if you actually stay in the area for 15 minutes, he will come back and through that, you'll get a secret ending where you get to do what you came to do in the game. And then you go off to have father-son bonding time with Pagan Min. Pretty cool, right? Of course, we have to mention Undertale here. Pacifist, genocide run. There's a lot of examples in Undertale, which is why we can't get into specifics, but Undertale is a very good example of reducing ludonarrative dissonance. Probably helps that it was made by one person, so they could collaborate with them. The fourth example I'm going to show is it's a more general one, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Basically, in some horror games, you can actually leave. You can just turn around and be like, nope, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Right. This is becoming a lot more common in horror games now that people have looked at them and we're like, wait, why am I being forced into this and going deeper into here? The protagonist should be like, no, I'm not going deeper in here. But so we talked a lot about how ludonarrative dissonance can be bad and how reducing it can be good. But how do we avoid ludonarrative dissonance? Well, the first step is communication. Communicate with the designers. How do the mechanics feel? Do the mechanics match the story you want to tell? Hell, really talk to them to see where are they going with this, and is the direction the mechanics are going match with what you're trying to think up? Second, be mindful with your writing. What is it? Consider this. What is the theme of your story and what is the theme of your game? Because these two can be very different depending on different factors. So you're really gonna have to think about that, and if you really care about it. The third one is something that all of us here in VGDC will tell you: playtest and get feedback. Get people to play a certain level that you're concerned about, and try and get as much feedback from them as possible to see are they interpreting the story the way that you had intended? Are they eating what you're cooking? Are they buying what you're selling? And are they getting the main gist of what you wanted to say? And if they're not, why? What is it about what the game is doing that makes players confused about what the game is trying to say. But also remember, your mileage may vary. You're gonna need to consider what story you're making, and what game this is for, and even more important, what is your game's audience? Because if it's a very serious game, they're gonna care about ludonarrative dissonance a lot more than if you're making something that has a more casual audience, like Uncharted. A lot of people because sometimes people just joke about ludonarrative dissonance and don't actually care. But depending on your game, it can ruin what people think of your game. So, considering that, I have two questions. Would we ever want ludonarrative dissonance, and why? Yes, Randon?
Yes, because then we get the secret Fallout New Vegas ending, where if you have 100 speech, you can just convert the final bad guy into realizing that he's the bad guy, and he just stops being bad.
Yeah, that, and that his plan is stupid and that's not going to work out.
Yeah,
Anyone have got any more examples? All right.
if it wasn't for ludonarrative dissonance, we wouldn't have Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire.
Oh, damn.
It's a bad plan.
Yeah, any other people here got examples? Maybe Matt? Yes?
Maybe if we had ludonarrative dissonance, we would have really funny Silent Hill endings, like one where a dog is controlling the game and it's all run by aliens. And not a survival horror game.
Is that just right?
Wait a second.
All right, if people weren't able to hear him, he was talking about how if ludonarrative dissonance wasn't a thing, we wouldn't get that. We wouldn't get really funny endings in the Silent Hill, like the secret ending in Silent Hill 2, where it turns out a dog was controlling everything. And then our protagonist breaks down at this realization. Yes.
And then we wouldn't get the Metal Gear Solid 5 preference, where Kojima put himself in the game as a hostage that you need to rescue. And Snake just solemnly nods at him and gives him some sunglasses, and they ride off into the sunset as explosions rain down around them.
Yes. All right, we should probably move on. All right. So even if we don't want to put in ludonarrative dissonance, when is it necessary? When is ludonarrative dissonance unavoidable in the grand scheme of things? Do we have any examples of where a game might need to use ludonarrative dissonance no matter what? Yes, Jason.
What games like puzzle games that like or the one that came up to mind was Honey Pot, where you just like it's a dating sim where you like court women by doing puzzles or something. Yeah.
You play the duel to get the. I'm not gonna finish that joke.
Yeah, Bejeweled.
Get the jewel. There you go. Also, most gotcha games wouldn't exist without one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Genshin Impact.
Yeah, because it's like, wait a minute, these characters aren't going to come up later in the story. Why can I get them before I even meet them in the story? But because of the way gotcha games work, that is kind of unavoidable. Imagine reducing the amount of characters that you can roll for, or just barring people from rolling banners just because they haven't made enough story progress. That would infuriate a lot more gotcha players than it would be worth. So we have a little activity here. We're going to do the opposite of what this workshop taught. Anyone who wants to join, you'll have to concept the game with ludonarrative dissonance, starting with a simple mechanic, come up with a story that does not match with the core gameplay at hand. And then after time is up, we can talk about how to make it better, better matches mechanics as much as we can. Not gonna lie, though, there's not a lot of people here. So should we still do it?
You can do it if I want to, but probably just like off stream.
Do like what?
Do it like off stream, just in here.
Yeah. All right. I think the upstream option may be better. So, I was gonna play this video. I thought it was really funny to just have the Far Cry 4 hidden ending playing in the background. But I don't think we have enough time for it.
And also copyright.
Yeah.
Well, it's not our gambling.
Yeah. Don't move. Go.
Don't.
All right, so technically this is the end of the workshop. We will be doing the off-stream activity, but this is gonna be the end of our recording here. Next week on VGDC writing workshop, we have something very important.
Gallahorn. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, yep. That's it. Thanks, Charlie, for coming into our workshop. Listening to us coming in to visit even with like a 20-minute notice. You're a champ.
Get out.
All right. Well,
And
you had the meeting here. See you guys.